Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's FileMaker webinar. My name is Mike Crook. I'm the Marketing Manager for FileMaker in the UK. I have with me Kieran Saunders, our Solutions Consultant.
Good afternoon.
So thanks for joining me for today's webinar, which is entitled Empowering Mobile Users, and it's designed for those of you new to FileMaker who have not yet extended your solutions past the desktop. So before we get going, I'd like to spend 3 or 4 minutes on some brief housekeeping notes and talk about the FileMaker platform before Kieran gets going with the demo. So for your best experience today, it's strongly recommended you participate in this webinar with a broadband connection. If you have any problems or require any online assistance at any time, you can contact Citrix Technical Support using the number that's on the screen right now. So let's talk briefly about today's presentation. You will have the opportunity to type in questions. Let's just talk you briefly as to how you do that. On your control panel, click on the questions section, enter your question and click send. We'll answer as many of those questions as we can towards the end of the presentation, and remember, you don't need to wait until the end of this session to ask them, so please send them when you think of them and we'll do our best to address them at the end. So, organizations, especially smaller ones, frequently struggle to find the right fit for extending desktop information to mobile users. Now, FileMaker has been in business for a long time, and in talking with thousands of companies, some challenges we frequently hear under similar circumstances are those of scattered information and ad hoc processes. Collecting data in the field, for example, would happen on notepads, spreadsheets, and then they're aggregated and re-entered into an additional spreadsheet that is once again re-entered into a main database system, resulting in a necessary but highly inefficient process. I'm sure some of that sounds familiar to some of you today. So another challenge is the lack of real-time information. An in-house sales team on the floor of a car dealer or a sales team out in the field in business meetings needs to be able to communicate and have access to the critical information they need to conduct business. Now, we've found it's been difficult for companies to keep up with the rate at which technology has evolved and the demand for the latest devices that would allow mobile users to perform their jobs at the highest levels of efficiency and productivity. So the answer to these challenges are, of course, mobile solutions. So the rise of mobile technology in the workforce has been widely documented, as I'm sure you know. In fact, according to a recent Citrix-sponsored Workplace of the Future global survey, 91% of respondents plan to have a mobile strategy, with 82% estimated to have implemented one by this time. And of course, mobile solutions are integral to your mobile strategy. A CIO article pointed to one Aperion survey noted that 70% of respondents plan to equip 1,000 users with mobile apps, and 1/3 of those respondents had plans to deploy 5,000 mobile users by 2016. That's just next year, guys. And businesses aren't just looking for any downloadable app that's out there that may or may not fit their needs. Aperion's Mobile Enterprise Application Survey found that the leading strategy for mobile adoption by IT leaders is creating their own apps to address core business problems. So mobile technology in the workforce is not just a trend, it's a reality. So where does FileMaker fit in this new world? So FileMaker is a platform that allows you to create custom apps that go everywhere your business takes you. Your solutions are always going to start with an idea and a copy of either FileMaker Pro or FileMaker Pro Advanced, which is the desktop software for Mac or Windows that allows you to create these solutions. And when you're ready to share your solutions with your team, we'll just upload them to FileMaker Server. This is a software application that you install on a dedicated machine. It provides the connectivity, security, reliability, and performance you'd expect as you, in a sense, manage your own cloud service. At this point, the first group you're sharing the solution with is typically the immediate work group in your office. So for your everyday users, or the users you expect to be constantly logged into the file, making heavy changes to data, running complex reports or finds, they're going to have a copy of FileMaker Pro on their desktop, and they're going to use that to log into your hosted solutions. And then extending your solution to mobile users is absolutely possible with both FileMaker Go and WebDirect. FileMaker Go is a free download for the iOS on the App Store, and you can connect to your FileMaker hosted databases from an iPad, iPhone, or iPod Touch. WebDirect is a feature offered through FileMaker Server, and it allows you to expand your solution to desktop and mobile tablet web browsers just using your FileMaker skills with no coding for HTML, CSS, PHP, any of that stuff. So you're given all of the database tools you need to design a better business workflow and a full set of applications to design a better workplace. So how have FileMaker users been extending their solutions to their mobile workforce? Well, a private airline in France uses a FileMaker-based solution for maintenance and stock management. Servibar, makers of famous hotel guest room refrigerators, I'm assured, uses a solution to report and view critical maintenance issues from anywhere in the hotel. GlobeNet Systems has created a customer management sales management system with an iOS front end that provides features such as registration of new customers, unpaid, paid item information, and calculations of total sales. The world-famous Arturo Montero takes his solution in the field to capture data and record archaeological sites and caves in real time. Valley Oxygen uses a medical sales system that allows medical device sales reps in the field to track clients and managers while monitoring sales goals. And Braun Electric has improved job safety by digitizing their job safety analysis process and providing recommendations and risk assessments just one click away. So the possibilities of mobile apps are virtually endless, as you can see, and by now I'm sure you're probably thinking, is it really as easy as I'm saying it is? Can I really deploy a mobile solution without diving deep into months and months of coding? Well, the best way to answer that is to show you. So Kieran will be getting going in a demo shortly. So to frame the demo, let's assume that we all work for an auto parts reseller. One of our biggest sources of income are the automotive trade shows that we work on a monthly basis. Typically, we'll have a team representing our company at each show with spreadsheets of our stock levels in hand, and when we're conversing with interesting parties, we'll have them view a printed list of our products and services, manually create a quote on a paper form, and update our spreadsheets with stock level changes. But when we get back to the office, we're then tasked to manually re-enter that information into an existing system. So we're double checking for existing customers, adding new customers to our database, and updating inventory, among other things. The updated information is then saved and distributed to new spreadsheets to start the process all over when the next trade show event occurs. So we get the job done, it's just a time-consuming process. So let's assume our boss is, let's call him Charles. Charles knows that with every show we're spending too many wasted cycles on inefficient processes, and it's costing our company time and money. And that's when I get called into his office. Charles knows there has to be a more effective, more efficient way to facilitate this process. Charles wants the following. We need the field team to be able to access information in real time. He is tired of being burned by expensive software that can only do half of what we need. So he wants to make sure we're able to capture the workflow that's going to make our jobs easier in the field. And he wants the customer experience to be better too. So we need the ability to send out quotes to our customers. Now, that's a lot of moving parts, and with the tools I've been given, I know I'm in for a long string of weeks or months ahead. And today is just not a good day to even start this project. It's the end of the day on Friday, and I need to pick up my kids in about an hour. But that's when I remember FileMaker. So the first thing I want to do is make sure I can actually build something that our team can access out in the field. And that's when I stop talking and I hand over to Kieran, and Kieran shows you how.
Thank you very much, Mike. I'm not sure why Mike's going off to get his kids in at lunchtime, but let's assume he's going away for the weekend. So let's make it happen for him. Not yet, in an hour. Okay, so let's have a look. I've got some resources to help me out. My boss has thrown me over some images that I've got of some of these parts that we're going to the trade show to sell. I've got a list of one of the Excel sheets that they were using with some information about the cost and description and a few IDs in there. And of course, I've got the company logo. So let's get started. And first off, like we said, let's just get started and just make sure that we can share this with the different clients. Let's just try that out first before we get too much into the practicality. So I'm going to open up FileMaker Pro, and I'm going to create a new solution. So File, New Solution. Let's just call it Mobile Quote, and save that onto the desktop. So we've opened up with a brand new file. It's blank. There's nothing in there. We can go into File Manage Database and see it's created a blank table based on the name of the file we just created, Mobile Quote, but there's nothing in it. There's no fields, no columns of data, and just a blank table holder there for the relationship. So let's start populating this a little bit. Well, the first off is that we want the guys at these trade shows using iPads. We think that's a nice way of interacting with the customers while we're there. So we'll create a new form or a new layout in FileMaker. We'll base it on the quote, and we'll just give it a name, quote. We're going to point that towards the touch devices, and we're going to select iPad here. We want it to be a form. We don't want it to be a list of data or a table or a report. We want it to be a sort of form that we can fill out. And we're going to make it in landscape mode so that we can see it in landscape mode on the iPad. So we'll finish that. That's now created a new form. We've got two forms in there. We've got our new quote form. It looks pretty much the same. It's using this theme over here called the Enlightened Touch. We can go into these themes and change them. You'll notice that the new themes are the two Aspire ones at the top here. We've got the touch themes, which of course are dedicated and focused on the touch devices, so the iPads and the iPhones. And we've got the sort of related family ones that are for the desktops. So you can go through and change the look feel of here and also create your own look and feel. Maybe your custom company has a sort of a color scheme or that you want to design for, and you can absolutely do that, but you'd use one of these as the base ones. Okay, so we'll stay with Enlighten, that's fine. And let's go into the field picker tool, which was already open. I just closed it down. Here it is. And that enables us to start creating a few fields, and we'll create some fields, put a logo and a title, and then we'll start upload that to the server and then show it on an iPad. So do a quick job of just sharing that. Go down the bottom here and create a new field. And the first thing we're going to do is to create a primary key. So we want all of our fields to be unique, of course. So we're going to do a primary ID and call it quote ID. So that's great. We can right click on the field once we created it, and we can go into field options. And because this is a mobile device, usually on an internal system, you would maybe just click serial number here, make them start at 1, so the first quote would be number 1, and then the second one would increment by 1 being 2, of course, and so on and so forth. But as we're on a mobile device, we've no way of connecting into the server all the time. Maybe we're potentially going to be offline, so there's no way of having these sequential numbers. We've got 10 people out on the show floor. They're not connected to the server. You can't just create serial numbers like that. You need some way of creating unique numbers. So what we're going to do is go down to this calculated value here, and we're going to call get UUID. So this gets us an extremely large unique identifier code that should never be repeated on any of the devices. So that's the first tip for when you're creating ID fields on the mobile devices. So that's done then. So we've got our ID there, and we're just going to create 2 more. So we want the sales rep name and the quote date, of course, being a date field. And again, on the date, I want to go into the field options, and I want to click the first option here, which is creation date. So I want to have the date be created automatically. Okay, well, let's drag some of these fields onto the form. So we don't need the ID field. We're just going to grab the 2. I used Shift and Select there, just so you can select both fields at once. I'm going to drag them on, and in the field placement options here, I want them next to each other. And I'm actually going to use one of the new features, which is the label is within, it's called placeholder text, but it's within the field itself. It's not an additional field. If I just quickly show that to you. So this is with a label at the top here, but if I undo that and bring that in with the label in the middle, we can see that it will bring it in and the label is inside. So let's just quickly, I've got this logo, I'll drag that onto the field as well. I'm just going to actually put that onto the right hand side. And I'm going to use the text tool at the top here to create FileMaker auto parts. Let's say give it a title. You could say quoting tool as well. You can go into the text tools at the top here and maybe change the color, make it a bit more white maybe, and make it a bit bigger. Let's say 18 points. Lovely. You can see the lines, these blue lines that are coming up that are guiding, little guides here to make sure that I've got the logo and the label nicely centered there. So let's see what that looks like. So we're going to exit the layout and save that form. And yeah, that looks okay. We've got something there. We can start creating maybe a new record. Maybe we'll call that Charles, as he's our guy. And you can see that as we've created this record, the date has been created automatically for us, the date of the quote, and the sales rep guy who put it in. You could have a drop down there, of course, and you could even auto discover their name. Maybe it's always going to be Charles or whoever this device is. Maybe lots of things you can do there. Okay, so we've got our beginnings of our system. Let's actually start and upload that straight away to our server and start sharing that with the iPad. So you go File, Sharing, Upload to FileMaker Server. I'm actually just going to ignore, at this stage you would usually put a username and password on there, but I'm not going to. I'm going to ignore that. And I've got a server on my my laptop here. So I'm just going to choose that server to upload. This server, of course, could be in a one of our hosting partners, on your own hosted machine, or internally, or you could be potentially maybe bringing a little Mac Mini around to these trade shows. Lots of different ways of doing it. Okay, so it's now successfully uploaded to my server, and it's a little tick box to say open with FileMaker Pro again. So I can open that up again, and exactly the same, of course. I've opened it back up into FileMaker Pro, but you can see my server is now highlighted in brackets here, so I know that it's now a hosted file. So let me just use a tool called Reflector so that I can bring up my iPad that's sitting next to me using AirPlay. I'll try that again. For some reason, Reflector crashed there. And again, it crashed again for some reason. There you go, here it comes. Thank goodness, there you go. That would have been a relatively short demo. You'd have to have believed me that it went onto my iPad. Right, there you go. So there's my iPad that's sitting next to me. So this is just using a software tool so I can beam it up using AirPlay, if you've ever seen that on an Apple TV. It's the same kind of technology. So I've got FileMaker Go here that I've downloaded from the App Store. It's a free app to download and use locally. You could email this file that we've created in FileMaker Pro through mail, open it up in mail here, hold on to the attachment, the FileMaker file in the attachment, and open it up in FileMaker Go, and you can use that locally. Maybe that's how they deploy this solution to the sales reps people. Maybe they don't use the server, but let's go ahead and see what it looks like. So let's just refresh this tool. So I'm going to go and have a look at my my server there, and I can see this mobile quote file that we've just created. So let's go in there and see how that looks. So we've got the same file there. You can sort of see it's exactly the same file. I can swipe up with 3 fingers up and down to remove this bit of FileMaker Chrome here, and really start make it look like a native custom app on the App Store. We've got some different tools down the bottom here to go through different records, but we've only got one to start off with. But we could click on this plus button here to create a new quote, and maybe this the sales rep is now Mike, but we could create records as we go on the system. If we just go, we should have 2 records now on the server and 2 quotes. Obviously, nothing else is filled out, but you can see that we've got 2 quotes. One was created with FileMaker Pro, which we can see on the iPad, and one that was created from the iPad that we put Mike in. So you can see how very easy it is to deploy through these systems and get out there on the iPad. Okay. So let's start looking at one of the technology that we mentioned. We mentioned FileMaker WebDirect, which is to get that through a browser. So let's see how fast and easy that is as well. To do that, I'm going to use FileMaker Pro to open up the security, but it's using the FileMaker Server to deploy that to the browser, of course. But we're going to go in and go to Sharing and configure FileMaker WebDirect. Choose the file. We've only got one file there. You could put, of course, specific, and we would recommend that you lock this down a lot to a specific privilege set in a security privilege set. We're just going to select all users at this time just to get this running. So that's all I've had to do. I'm going to open up Chrome there and go to the local host. In this case, you would type in your IP address of your server, the name of your server, /FMI/WebD for WebDirect, and up come the files that are able to be seen. So I could go into this gallery master one is one that we created for one of our FileMaker launches there. So you can see quite a rich file there for a gallery that has lots of pictures and stuff going on here. We go back to the home page, we can see the file that we've just created and is now also in a browser. So you can see that this coming through. We can see the two records here, and we could add a record here as well. Oops, and just put WebDirect on there, so we can see that that's come from WebDirect. And if we go back to any of the other clients, we'll be able to see a record here. That's being FileMaker Pro, and we can see on my iPad we can see WebDirect. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. So just to recap, we've created a new file. We've put a few fields on a simple form. We've uploaded it to the server, and we've just tested that we can connect through the 3 different clients. We can connect to it on the desktop through FileMaker Pro, the iPad with FileMaker Go, and we can see it through WebDirect through any of the major browsers. Those browsers also, even though I've been demonstrating the Chrome on my MacBook here, we could be using Chrome on an Android device, or we could be using Safari on the iPads as well. So we can also bring those solutions through to a mobile device within the browser. Okay. So let's just quickly go back to the keynote and see what things that we have to tick off, how we can get Mike out the door in another 35 minutes or so. So the first thing we want to do is real-time information, where and where we want it. Well, I think we've cracked that. I'm not saying that it's very rich. I'm not saying that we've seen a lot of information, but we were able to create a new quote, a new record, and we were able to see it real time wherever and whenever we wanted to see that. So I think we've cracked that. But more importantly, let's see how we can align with the business needs, and those business needs being to stop using spreadsheets really, and to create a better user experience. So let's go and have a look at how we can do that. I'm just going to drop my iPad out of the way there. Right. Okay, so to do that, what we're going to do is we're just going to import this inventory list. Let's get that in there, because that's some quite valuable information in there. That'll enable us to build upon it. So we're going to go to File, Import Records from a file. My desktop, I'm going to choose that spreadsheet there and open it up. That's going to come through to the import field mapping dialog. On the left here, we've got the source, so the spreadsheet, what's in the spreadsheet and the columns within that spreadsheet, and where are you going to put it? Well, I don't want it to go into the quote. I want it to become part of the quote eventually, but it's a separate table. It's all the inventory. So I wanted that to come into a new table, and it's choosing the name of the Excel file, which you can change later on. And it's sort of not guessing, but it's just putting placeholders for the field names, F1 to F4 there. If we go down to the bottom left there and tick this don't import the first record, it contains field names. It will duplicate the names of the top row in that column. If I just bring that up, you'll see. So it will bring these bit of text in as the field names. Again, you can change it later on, but it's quite helpful to start building up a table. So once you're ready, you can click the import button and bring that in. So that's 25 bits of stock, or not stock, inventory that we've got in here. It's created us a form as well to go along with it as well. I go to FileMaker database, the table that we said to create as well. So it's created a few things for us. So we can look at this in several different ways. We can look at this in table view, so we can see all of them there. And we can see it just within a form view as well. And we can see one record at a time and click through those different bits of inventory. So one thing I want to do is to start bringing in some of these images. So to do that, I'm going to have to create a new field. So we go into Edit Layout mode here, into my Field Picker tool, and I'm just going to create an image field of a container type. Now the container is a really nice type. It's unique to FileMaker, and it says what it does on the box, if you pardon the pun, but it contains things, so it doesn't matter what it is. But if it's an image or a PDF or something that potentially a browser will be able to display, actually show, we'll show it as well on the form. But it doesn't matter what field type it is, you can still drag and drop that in. So let's show you how that works. So new field, I'll just drag that onto my form. I'll go into browse mode, and we can now see that we've got this image. So I can bring that image in, just drop and drag it in, and now we've got the air filter picture related to a bit of stock. I could go into the table view just for speed, let's say, and I could drag them into this field here. So you can see what just makes it potentially a little bit faster. Disc breaks, we won't do all of them, we'll just do the first few. So that's one way of getting images into the system. You can also do a file import from a folder. That's another way of getting mass images or documents into a FileMaker system. So okay, that's great. We've got an inventory now with some lists. What would be nice is to see a list of all these inventory here that we could then pick from to put into our quote, right? Picking list, that would be a good thing to have. So let's see how we do that. Well, what we have to do is we have to have a relationship, and we have to use a part called a portal. So to do that, we're going to go into the relationships, the file managed database side again. Again, we've got the two tables here. Let's just change while we're here. I'll just change that table name to quote and click the change button. So now it makes a bit more sense. We've got quote and the inventory list, the fields that go along, and the relationships to go with. Now the first one we're going to do is a bit of a strange one in a way, but we're going to draw a relationship from the primary key to the primary key. And then we're going to click in the box in the middle to edit that relationship between the two. I haven't got time to go into relationships in this session. We hold a webinar on relationships in the FileMaker training series basics webinars that we do. You can also find it within our knowledge base and also within our forums, and look into relationships in a bit more depth. But for this sort of demo, just imagine that you need to relate data together. That's how these how to build a custom app. That you need customers, or in this case quotes, and that you need those inventory items to go into the quote. So you need some kind of relationship. We're going to start with a bit of an advanced one in a way. Usually, if you have a look on the left-hand side, we've got the quote and inventory list on the right. We can see that relationship is in the middle. A lot of them are equals, where the ID here equals the ID here. That's the relationship that you want. Maybe you want not equals. Maybe you want below or equals, above or above and equals. In this case, we don't care. We want all of them. So we want the X relationship here and change that relationship there. So we just see all of them. We just want to see when we're on the quote. In this case, for this tool, if you like, we want to see all of the inventory, so we can pick from them. So it's an X type. Okay, so that's great on the relationship side. And to visualize that, we need to use a tool called a portal. So I'm going to go into Edit Layout again, and up the top here in our tools set up here, we've got the portal tool. So it's a single click on that tool up there, make it gray, and you draw a box basically of where you want to display those inventories. So that's come down, that's great. So we've got to set this up. So show related records from, well, it's the related table inventory list. We're showing 10 at the moment. Let's bring that down to 5. So showing 5 rows of records, because we're going to put a picture in here. So it's going to be, each row is going to be quite big. And what do we want to see? Well, we want to see everything, but we want to see image first, then the item description, and then cost as we go. So you can see this tool here, you can see the white space at the top is the row that will repeat through the related records. The grey bit is just showing you how big it will display. So I'm just going to drag down that first row until it hits the bottom there, and then expand some of these items. So I want the picture to be nice and big so I can actually see it. The item is fine. Maybe I'll bring the description down and make that a bit bigger, as it's going to have a lot of text in there. And the cost, I'm going to go into the inspector window, which you bring up through this little eye here, or control or Apple eye. And within the data tab here, right down the bottom, you can see that you can find currency. And we're just going to make sure that that's a pound sign, so we format it. And that would be great. That would be fine for our needs. Shrink that down a bit. So let's see how that looks. Okay, so I can see already I'm using my mouse to try and go through that list, and I can see that I've forgotten one of the settings on the portal. So if I go back into layout mode, double click on that portal, one of the things I forgot was allow scrolling, which is, maybe you don't want, but in this case I do. So I'm going to turn on scrolling. When I save that again, I can go through all of my saves. You can see the ones where we haven't put a picture on. Okay, great. So I've got my list here, and one thing I did forget to put on there, you wouldn't normally put on there, that's why I haven't got it on there, is the primary key, just so we can see it. You wouldn't normally put that on a form, but for our case at the moment, we need to see that, so we can see the unique identifier, so we can relate it to our quote. Okay, that's fantastic. So, so just to bring this forwards a little bit, I'm going to go into one I made earlier, just to push it out a little bit. So let's just close this file here. And I'm going to go File, Open, and find my host files. And I'm going to go into the Quote Tool 2. So I'm just going to see the second bit. Okay, so I can see already I just need to change the dollar symbol on there. So let me go and do that very quickly. Change that dollar to a pound. So let's see what I've done in here. What I've done is I've brought in a tab control, and I've built out some more fields in the quoting tool to put in a customer name, so we can have the customer's email address and name, and a few addresses about address information about them as well. And I've put some space on here in quote and left some space here to put the quote, actually the list of the quote in there. So pretty similarly, we haven't gone on too far. Let's just have a look in the FileMaker database. So we haven't moved on too much stuff. We've just, like I say, added a few. We sort of based it out so you don't have to watch me type out all the fields. Okay, so let's start building out our quote here, how we do the quote. So we've got the list of our pick list. Let's actually start building out that quote then. And to do that, we need to go into the file manager relationship again and start building out a few more tables. So one is we need to add a table, we need to duplicate a table based on the inventory. So we need the inventory, but we're going to, and it will make sense why I'm calling it this, order request underscore inventory, which is just a duplication. So these tables, I haven't created another table for the inventory. I've just created a placeholder for it, as we're going to use that within this little bit of a tool. We're going to build out a tool where we're picking from the inventory. Okay, so we do need to add a new table, and that new table is going to be called order request. And we're going to create that table. So we need to add some fields to this one. Of course, good practice, every table should have its own primary key. So we'll call that order request. We'll, again, give that a unique identifier. And we need to create some foreign keys. So again, I haven't got time to go through relational models if you're not aware of what I'm doing, but a primary key being the unique identifier. The foreign key is a field in another table that points back to that object. So a quote ID would be unique, but would point to the list, the order request item that would then point to the inventory item. Make more sense when I build it out and you can see what I'm doing. So inventory we need, and the quote. Okay, let's see how that looks. So just swap these around. So we've created a table in the middle that holds the quote information. So we have the quote and the information around the quote and the customer, but we need this table in the middle here that gathers information from the inventory and relates it to the quote. Okay, so let's just hook this up. So we need the primary quote ID going to the foreign quote ID and the primary inventory ID going to the foreign inventory ID over here. Okay, I need to do a bit of work in this relationship to allow the creation of records on both ends going into this order request table. And that should be done sort of the framework, if you like, but we have to go into this order request table and we want to collect some information about it. So the quantities that people are buying or ordering, and a subtotal of the costs. So we're going to create a calculation on that, create that, and it's going to be, of course, the quantity that they're buying times the cost of the item, if we can find that there. There you go, so quantity times the cost. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So let's see how we actually then display it. And again, we're going to display it in a portal. So let's edit that layout. Go over to our portal tool again and draw that space out. Where are we? What do we want to display? Well, it's the order request that we've just created. Again, we want to scroll. 7 looks fine. So we want the foreign ID because we want to show you how to relate it and how you would then do it in a script, but we need to bring that in. The quality, the subtotal, and of course the actual item, bit of text as well. So that is great. Let's just bring that down again, give myself a little bit of space. And I'm just going to create some labels at the top here that show me what they are. So let's just put them at the top. Just going to duplicate that one, call item, duplicate that one again. And subtotal. Okay, so let's see how that looks. So I'll save that form. And there's nothing in there. We've got no relationships, and that's why I left this primary ID on the left-hand side. So we want the air filter to be part of this quote. Well, air filter the ID is 1. So if we type that in, we relate to it, and we start building up that quote. The quantity maybe being 2 of them, which would add in a subtotal as well. So we can go through and maybe add a few other items and what they are. You can see I've got a bit of formatting here. I could make the text here a bit bigger maybe the quantity a bit smaller. See how that looks. No, still not long enough. You get the idea. Okay, so we've got the ID and the item, and we're starting to build up the form. It's still a manual process at the moment, so let's see how we can make that a little bit better. There's two things that would add a bit of intelligence. One is putting a total down the bottom here, and another is to maybe add a button running a script that would start picking, allowing us to do this pick without doing it manually. So let's do the easiest one first. Let's just make that maybe 6 lines on there so I can have some room down the bottom. And I'm going to go to File Manage Database again. I'm going to go to the order request table and add a summary field, so a total cost of the order, and the type, instead of a calculation, we're going to create a summary. Create that, and we want the total, of course, of the subtotal. So we can add up the subtotals, give us a total cost, and bring that onto the form using my field picker tool again. There's the total costs. Bring that down the bottom there. And I'll have to format that as currency again. Let's see how that looks. Okay, great. So that's now adding all these together as we add more items. You can see that should be adding them up as we go, so we get a nice subtotal down the bottom as we're adding them for the customer. Great. Okay, then the next thing to do is to put a button over here on the left-hand side and have that process happen automatically, or a lot faster anyway. So the first thing to do maybe is just to put a button here. So we've got a button tool at the top here. You hover over it, it gives you a little tool to show you. And we've got some really nice additions to the buttons now. We can add some text to the button, of course, but we can also add some nice little images, icons that ship with the product that you can choose. So a nice little add button there. You can make it a little bit bigger. You can change the look feel of it. In the inspector, you can change the style, change its color. Sorry, or change the style maybe. I quite like the green there, and you can add a bit of color into your system very, very quickly. Okay, so normally you would go off and select a script to perform, but we haven't got one yet. So let's add a script, and we're going to call it add item. Okay, so we could go into this script and let's start building up a script. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to first off set a variable, and we want to grab the inventory ID. We want to grab the ID of the thing that we're going to do. So set a variable. So setting X to be something. In FileMaker's case, it's not X, it's always $$ something or $$ to make it global, a local variable or global variable. In this case, we're just going to call it $inventory ID. And what are we going to put in there? Well, we want it to be the inventory list, which is the first portal that we picked on the side, and we want it to be the primary ID of that list. So that's great. So we've captured that bit of information. The next thing we want to do is to go to an object. In this case, we want to go to the object which is the quote portal. Now we haven't set that object yet, so I'm just going to save this script and go to the object that we want to go to. So you can go to in a script any object. In this case, we want to go to the portal, and you set the name of a portal within the inspector window in the position tab in the name. So I've just cut and paste the name that I wanted to go to, and you obviously have to create unique names for that. Quote portal, so that's the one we want to go to, which is great. So let's go back into that script and continue. So go to the object, which is great. The next, when you create a portal in the way that I've done, you've always got an empty row at the bottom. So I want to go to that empty row down the bottom. Go to portal row and the last one. I'll go to the last one. And then I want to set a field. I want to enter the data that we captured at the start of the variable. As we came in here, we captured $inventory ID. So I want to set that field in the order request in the foreign ID, which is doing exactly what we did manually, but we're doing it through a script now. So the next thing we want to do as we're doing it through a script, usually you would click off maybe or click off that row, but we can put in a commit records script step that would then commit that record into the portal. So I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but let's go and save that script. Let's save the form and let's test that out and see whether I've got it right. Remarkably, I have. Usually I'd have to go into the script debugger tool, potentially, and run that script and then work through my script as it goes and figure out what's going on. So maybe I'll do that for you anyway. If I just cancel that a bit, if we just go back into it, so it's Tools Script Debugger, and you can also bring up the data viewer. I'll just make that a bit smaller for you, and you can see what's going on in the variable. So if I click the script, or I can launch it through here, or launch it through the button that I just put on, I can then step through my script, and we can see our variables being populated as we go. So we set a variable with the inventory ID, which is 1. We were going to the portal. We're going right down the bottom to the last portal row, and then we're setting the field here with the value that we just got, which was 1. And there it goes, and it populates that quote with the right inventory. One thing that would be nice is maybe to then create the quantity as 1, maybe. We could always go and change that, but maybe that would be a nice thing, an addition to the workflow, as it's not creating, it's not setting the quantity. So I can copy some of these script steps. So let's go in and change the quantity with a calculated value of just 1 instead. So let's see how that looks. There you go. So it's actually giving us a quantity now, which is then, of course, filling in the subtotal and adding to the total cost. Okay, so let's just recap what I've done there. So I've created, I'll do it visually. I've created a new table called order request that will capture the existing inventory information in a list that's related to a quote. So then we can start doing a pick list and start doing that on the iPad in front of the customer. I've added the nice little portal so we can see that information as it comes in. What we could, of course, do is to get rid of these ID fields. We don't need them anymore. They're not useful to us anymore. We don't need them. They were just a nice visual aid. No, I do need them. I lie now. I need them in this table, otherwise the script don't work. So we can get rid of that one. We've added a button on the script so that we can do this in a nice way, a nice visual way of adding these bits of inventory into a quote pick list. We've put a subtotal and a total cost to then display to the customer straight away how much they're willing to spend with us. Okay, so let's just quickly go back to the presentation and make sure that I'm on message as it is. Well, I think we're pretty much aligning with the business needs. We're really conquering that, bringing in what they needed to do. We're trying to reduce inefficiencies, retyping in that information, and trying to do it in a nice visual way and on many devices potentially. But let's go ahead and see if we can even do any better and really get a great customer experience for our customers when they come see us. So to do that, I'm just going to again skip to one I made earlier and go and open up the third file that I've got here. So you can see pretty much what we had before. We've maybe tidied some stuff up, but basically the same sort of tool. Nothing much changed there, but what we've done is we've just added a printing layout that has the ability to then potentially email the customer directly from the iPad and email that off to the customer straight away. So that would populate with the quote that they've just done and email it off to them. Okay, so let's see how we can do that in a really nice way. So we're just going to go back to the iPad. So what we're going to do is create a little button down the bottom here that would be to send that quote off. So let's do that. We'll just create the script first and then we'll do the button. So back into the script workspace. I'm going to create a new script here. Email quote. I forgot to say when you come in here, you can go through and you could also, just using the spacebar, you can add a comment. So you can start typing, this script does this, whatever it may be, and the date and who changed it and so on. Some good practice so that when you come back in a couple of years, you can see what you've done, who did it. Always good practice, but you can very quickly add comments now, and they're nicely displayed in green, so they're highlighting out from the rest of the script steps. Anyway, let's go and start creating this. So let's first off, let's go through the workflow. We're on the layout with the quote, so we need to get the quote ID. So let's set a variable again, quote ID. And of course we get that from the primary key, quote ID. Nice and easy, same as we did before. So once we've got that, we want to go to the invoice layout. So it's a go to layout script step. And we want to navigate to the print quote iPad form. But then once we're there, we just want to make sure that we're on the same quote. So we're going to perform a find. And we're going to specify that the quote ID is equal. You can free type it, or the operators are in here. That quote ID that we've just saved. Okay, so that should do our find. It should find our correct quote just to make sure we're on the same, we're exactly on the same record, the right record. Then we're going to save a PDF of that form and then email it. So to do that, first off, we want to work out what we're going to use as a name. So again, it's quite good to put these things into variables and not hard code them. Let's call this file name. And we could just use the customer name, let's say. We could just do a very simple customer name like that. Oops, let me go in there. Customer name, and we want it to be a PDF. So let me just type it out and then I'll explain it, what I'm doing. So the ampersand in coding is to add to, but not in the mathematical way, but in the textual way. So you're adding text to text, you're appending it if you like. So we'll get the name of the customer out of the database at that field, which will be dynamic, but then we'll always append a .pdf on the end to get the file name. Okay, if that makes sense. So that's the file name, that's great, we've got that. The next is the save records as PDF. And let's see how that will work. So we can perform with that dialog. We don't really need to specify the output file. It gives you a lot of help here of what to do, whether you're on a Mac or a Windows and how you then save that to a directory. On the iPad, you don't have to, because it is just within the app, it's always going to be saved in that space. So you don't need to put a file network path. We're just going to give it the file name that we've saved, that we've created dynamically. We could also specify the current record of the records being browsed. It should only be one record anyway, but just for safety's sake, we'll put that in. Okay, so once we've done that, we will we save the PDF. That's great, and then we'll go back to the original layout, and then potentially save that, save that file. So let's do that. So go to layout. You can also copy script steps, cut and paste them. Go to layout and we'll go back to the original quotes page, just so we end up back where we assumed we were going to be. and then we're going to send email. Okay, so this is the dialog box for sending a mail, and of course we want to dynamically populate the customer's email that we've just captured. We don't want to type that again, so that's great. We could put some nice little things on here, like, quote from FileMaker Auto Parts, and a message, thanks for your business. Excellent, and then we can attach the file that we got. I need to actually populate that in a minute. I'll just put a placeholder in there, and then that should save that out. So the step before there is I just need to go and grab the path to that where that file was saved. So we've saved it out, but we need to grab it before we can send it. So I'm just going to add a line in there, which is setting of another variable. I'll just call this PDF path. And the value is a nice dynamic, of course we don't know, potentially where it is, but we're going to get the document path. And the file name, so we should be able to get that document from it. Okay, so let me just make sure I've got the right variable name. So when we send the email, we're actually going to be sending the attachment with the variable, the PDF path in the variable. Okay, so let's save this this and see how we get on. Right, so on our form again, so we need to put a button to run this script. So let's just create that button there, put that on there, give it a label, send quote, and we're going to perform the script email quote, the one that we've just created, and let's save that and see how it goes. There is a slight difference between sending the quote from Pro and the iPad. So I'm going to just bring up my iPad again, and we'll go onto the same tool and see how that works. Okay. Okay, hopefully you can see that same one. So there you go. So we've clicked on that button there. We've got the customer name automatically populated in the email. We've got the text that we put in there. Again, that could be dynamic. And we've got the PDF that was generated from that lovely form we've got. So all in all, pretty good. I think we've hit that giving a great customer satisfaction there. Hopefully you got that. I mean, this webinar is being recorded. It's hard to go through scripting and make it dynamic as we'd like, but hopefully you got something out there. And just to recap what we just did very quickly and what we did in that last section, let's bring up FileMaker again. So what we did was we created another script that grabbed this quote ID, went to a printing form that we've created already, did a find, so we could find that quote. We PDF'd it on the iPad. That PDF got saved to the app, FileMaker Go app. We then came back to our form just so that we ended up in the same place, but we sent off an email or set up an email that would attach that PDF as an attachment, dynamically grab Eric's email address and make that ready to send, so you could send out that quote directly to that customer while you've just done the quote dynamically in front of them. So pretty good experience for a customer. I hope you agree, especially on an iPad, and we've been able to do that in an hour as it's just gone. Okay, I couldn't have done that even better if I tried. Okay, so Let's just go back to the presentation and just make sure that we've hit them all. So I really think that we've done all those. We've done some real-time information. We've got it on the iPad, a web, and the desktops when and where we want it. We've tried to align this solution with the business needs. We've custom built it so we've heard what the pain points are from our staff on the showcase floor, and we've tried to create a solution that really fits into what they need. And we've not only done that, but hopefully we've created this great customer experience where the customers come on expected to maybe look at a bit of spreadsheet or a bit of a printed leaflet, but yet they've sat down with a tool, they've been able to see a picture of the product, the price, quote it all out, and then get an email, a PDF of that quote directly to their inbox while they're still standing there. Okay. So let's just again sort of recap where they came from or where we've come. So they were using spreadsheets, they were filling out paper forms, they were updating their lists, and then they were coming back to base and then potentially retyping that all out again. So just to give you an idea of some other customers out there that are using FileMaker and using it to its fullest extent. We've got a quote here by George, who is the owner of Seabreeze Farm. It's an amazing video. If you want to go to our customer stories and see it, they're totally transformed their whole farming. It's not just farming. Certainly from my point of view, the interest came when they were tasting and judging their own wine and their own cheese, and they look after sort of rare breed cows as well, and they were doing that all on Excel sheets and paper forms, and they've now got a mobile solution for all their workers to go out there, and that's where George's quote was, that he was able to create this himself, and it's something that his employees really generally want to use. It really does improve the data they have at their fingertips. Okay. So next steps is potentially to go and find our FileMaker Training Series books, both the basic, which is free, and the advanced, that is a reasonable cost of around about £12. Don't put off by the advanced sort of the advanced Word. It's a very step by step. Bringing you from a beginner up to a reasonably experienced with the product. I really recommend it. It comes with videos, files that you can use as the presenter is going through the sort of like we were doing today. We're going through a file and actually changing it. You can go ahead with the files and change them yourself as well while you're reading or watching the video, and really gives you a good sort of bit of practical training as well. So please go and check that out. The other thing is to please come and join our community. We have a fantastic community in the FileMaker world. It's an international community. Obviously, the English speakers for us it's quite useful to have our American cousins on there. You could ask a question and wake up in the morning and find that people have answered your question overnight. But it's a very nice people on there. They really are free with their time. No question is too stupid. Get on there and ask your question and get going. We also offer a lot of different tech briefs and downloads. Some of them are written by professional developers. They really are very sort of just very technical, but also easy to understand, but really get into the nuts and bolts of how to do things within FileMaker that are beyond just the FileMaker Training Series sections. Things like synchronization for when you want offline solution, relationships, and other papers. So really recommend you go and have a look at them on our community pages. And of course, sign up for the newsletter. And for those of you in the UK, we are running our community events every 3 months or so at our office here. You're more than welcome to come along and meet other FileMaker developers there as well. So some of the tools we've been using today, you can get your hands on and start actually diving in and seeing if you can recreate what we've done today. You can download FileMaker Go 14 for free from the App Store on your iPhone or your iPad. Download a copy of FileMaker Pro, which we've been using to build the file, and it's a 30-day trial. There's more seminars that we run. I mentioned the FileMaker training series, basic ones that we run. We also offer other ones, more advanced, and we're looking at doing new ones on server and within web, the web tools as well. Or go and have a look at the training resources for other partners. For instance, we've got Transmedia, a company here that offers training within the UK, both in London and Bristol, but there's other training resources online and around the country. So thank you very much, and it comes to my favourite part of the webinar, where potentially we get some people asking questions.
Thanks, Kieran. First of all, thank you I will be able to leave earlier today, so that's very kind of you. Just one question. I'm guessing everyone's being accommodating to me, my want to leave early. I work on my own. I have a Mac, iPhone, iPad, and want to have my FileMaker files synced over all three. I have downloaded FileMaker Go, but I'm not clear how I set all that up. Server, share with FileMaker, web clients, and web direct, question mark.
It's a great question. For a single user, I mean, FileMaker is really being targeted at the small work group. So there's a couple of ways you could go as a single user. One I'd recommend at least looking at quickly is to go type into Google FileMaker hosting and go and have a look at some of our hosting partners. You can put your file onto a shared server, very reasonable. I think I was looking yesterday, and I forget the cost, but one of them I was looking at was something like £12 a month. So it's worth at least having a look and having a go with that for a month or so. That you can upload your file to their server, and therefore in real time you can access it via your desktops, your iPads. I don't think you get web access for those costs, but it's a good start at least you can get through it for your iPad and your Pro. So that's one way of doing it. If it's a single user, potentially you could be emailing this file around to yourself, but then you're not really getting the same, you're almost using Excel and emailing that around. It's potentially not the best way of doing it, but some people do it. You can put it onto a cloud-based service like Dropbox, for instance, and start sharing that around. But I'd be cautious how you're doing it, because you could end up with multiple copies of the same file and get yourself into a tangle. So be careful, but that is one way that I've heard people using it when they're a single user. But I would look at the hosting way. At least then you're connected all the time, and there's one copy of the truth.
Thanks, Kieran. And that is our only question today. So, just 1 second. I think we might have one more. No, it's just positive feedback, Kieran, saying this is one of your best ever webinars. So that's great to hear. Thank you very much. Kieran likes that kind of feedback. So thank you very much. That's somebody else saying it's very useful too. Thank you. Thank you very much for attending today. We hope you have an excellent afternoon and a great weekend. Until our next webinar, keep an eye out for information on that. Thank you very much, and goodbye.